Welcome to another episode of The Imperfect Together with Zach and Chris. I'm your host, Zach. That
handsome fellow over here,
blue-shirted guy is Chris, and then we have a very wise hypnotist,
the Godfather
of Tim Goodman. Give it up for Tim, guys. Very wise man with a lot of knowledge. Tim, he is our guest today.
Tim's one of my favorite people. Just going on record there.
He's
mine too.
Yeah, Tim's a big fan of himself. I got a question for you guys.
No.
I got a question. You're gonna hear it anyways. What's your favorite superhero? Who's your favorite superhero?
So I'm gonna go with Superman, but here's why. I had a roommate in college, and I was never really into superheroes much. But a roommate in college, he was all about superheroes. And we always watched Smallville. So it became the show that we just started watching in college. So because of that show and getting just hooked with my roommate, Superman is my favorite.
What's his backstory?
That's the only reason I have on that.
What's his backstory?
His planet blew up, kryptonite, and he got sent down to Earth. And now he has superpowers.
How does that relate to you?
It doesn't.
It doesn't relate.
You just
to
asked me my favorite superheroes. I'm not.
Who's your favorite superhero, Tim?
Well, I think it would be debatable about his superhero status, but I think Batman.
No, it's not.
Depends on who you talk.
Hey, you can't deny him his.
That's my favorite, so it can't be yours.
Why? Because, why?
All right, why is it Batman?
Well, I think because he doesn't really have any superpowers.
Yep. Yeah, he doesn't have any superpowers.
He just has the ability
rich.
to.
Yeah, he's just rich. Comes up with.
Can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. I would say my favorite superhero is Batman as well.
That's my sister's.
Why is it your sister's?
I don't know. I'm not my sister. I'm just telling you it is.
He's probably a fan of. I mean, she's probably a fan.
My sister's a female.
She's probably a fan of like Christian Bale or maybe Michael Keaton. Am I right?
I don't know.
But yeah, so my favorite.
We didn't ask you who your favorite was.
But I want to tell you mine, which is Batman. And a lot of it is his origin story. I love his origin story. He was a kid. He was a kid crying at an opera. And he's like, Dad, I want to leave this opera. He leaves the opera. Parents get shot. Dead, pearls everywhere.
So why do you love that? That's kind of cruel, Zach.
Listen. Well, then he's like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. Boom, he falls into a cave. What happens? A whole bunch of bats come at him. He's like, man, I'm terrified of bats, like forever now. And then like 15 years later, he's like taking martial arts with Raj Al Ghul, and then Raj Al Ghul's like,
really?
If you want to,
he's in Arrow.
What? Raj Al
Ghul is in the show Arrow.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It's DC.
Yeah.
But Raj Al Ghul's like, if you want to intimidate your enemy, you have to become what you're most afraid of. And he's like, man, I'm terrified of bats. And so he's like, I'll be the Batman. And so he goes into Gotham and he fights the crime that has killed his parents. Pretty cool, huh?
It's turning things around.
Huh? Is Batman your favorite now?
No.
Yeah.
I really don't like Batman a whole lot.
He has lots of money. He has lots of money.
Are you trying to convince me to like Batman?
Yeah.
I have nothing against him.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big superheroes guy.
If you like money, I mean, Iron Man.
I say, yeah, I do like Iron Man. Yeah. Actually, I really started to like Thor.
Thor? You would.
Because in Thor Ragnarok...
You dress like Thor.
Hey, if I'm going to look like somebody, I want to like Thor. But Thor Ragnarok is when Marvel movies started making a turn where they put a lot more humor in there. And that is the funniest of all the movies. And then all of them started after that.
Hey, what did they call Batman when he was small? When he was a little kid?
Bat Kid?
Little Wayne.
Bah, bah, bah.
Am I right?
I don't know.
Was that a joke?
I wasn't there.
That was a pretty good joke, huh?
That was a good one, Zach.
Little Wheezy, baby.
They wouldn't call him Little Wheezy. They would call him Little Wayne.
I would
call What he says, I am not a human, I am a Martian. That's a Lil Wayne lyric.
Okay.
But, all right, so if we really want to understand someone, we need to know where they came from and about their backstory. Now, going back to the whole Batman scenario, do you think if the Joker knew the Batman's backstory, do you think he would be more kind?
No.
Why not?
Because it's the Joker.
He's
got his own backstory that's terrible.
Do you think the Batman should understand the Joker's backstory? Maybe it's just a big misunderstanding.
I think if they were to take the time to learn each other's backstory, there may be a little bit of progress, but there's so much hatred and stuff there that I'm not sure that they can overcome it.
You know, I think my opinion is that if they learned each other's differences and learned how to get along, you know, there wouldn't be a Joker. He would just be a guy making balloon animals at a mall.
Okay. Disagree. What's your opinion before I disagree?
Well,
And I'll tell you why, but I want to hear your opinion first.
I don't think that that's going to be something that will happen. I think
I
it's
think
going
that
to
would
be
a comic book that everyone would read.
but it's the element of good versus evil. Good versus evil. The Joker would continue to represent one element of.
Has anyone just loved on the Joker?
Listen,
For where he's
here's
at?
here's where I'm
Has
going.
anyone done that? But
No, that's the problem.
We put him in this.
That's the problem.
We put him in this
Listen
square.
to me.
We put him in this square of like, nah, man, you're evil as hell, man. You can't.
What about Harley Quinn?
Harley Quinn was good at one time, but then
Quinn,
the Joker,
not Queen.
And then the
Hey.
Joker turned it.
You gonna let me
Turn.
finish?
Yeah.
I think it would have worked if people, when Joker was younger, in an earlier process, would have understood him more. Then maybe he would not turn out the way he did. But after years and years and years of that, it would take a whole lot of that in order to change him.
So with that,
Not that it can't be done,
So with that
but
statement,
just being his.
So with that statement, are you putting Jesus in a box right now?
Well, this has nothing to do with Jesus. If Jesus showed up and was talking to the Joker, Jesus would treat him that way. Doesn't mean that the Joker would listen.
So going back to the story of Zacchaeus.
From the Joker to Zacchaeus.
So Zacchaeus was hated, just like how the Joker was hated, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with
what
you.
did Jesus do? What did Jesus do? He said, Zacchaeus, get out of that tree, man. Let me hear your story. Even though that he knew his story, even though that he knew, he knew about Zacchaeus, but he put in the time to know Zacchaeus and understand his story and all that stuff. So with that, do you think the Joker would listen?
I don't know about the Joker. Depends on his mood on the day, right? It is not that shouldn't happen. I think it's a good thing that should happen. I just think the Joker is. Here's the difference with Zacchaeus.
All right.
Are you ready for this? Zacchaeus was actually looking for something. I don't think the Joker is looking for something. If he was looking for redemption or to be better,
he's in the tree going.
I don't think so. I think you have a very bad image of
I'll get you
Zacchaeus.
next time, Batman. Or let me see what's over these people.
No, that
impression.
is.
That's your Wizard of Oz impression.
Except we're talking about Zacchaeus.
Well, the question I think would go back to that is, as Chris pointed out, Zacchaeus was looking for something.
Yeah.
How many of the people who were not in trees that just showed up at the parade, just wanted to see what was going on, did Jesus not call out? Though they could have been.
Yeah.
But they weren't looking in that manner.
Yeah.
Everyone at that parade had a story.
Yeah.
But there was a particular story that day he wanted to focus on.
Yeah.
So had he chosen to focus on the Joker.
So why did you think he picked Zacchaeus? Out of all those stories, why did he decide to pick Zacchaeus?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure I can answer that. I would think that Jesus probably saw within Zacchaeus a determination to get to an elevated view.
Yeah.
He was in a position where he knew Zacchaeus had a background that was hated.
Yeah.
Zacchaeus was someone that wasn't chosen to be a representation of the people, but a representation of government. Jesus saw, I think, in Zacchaeus a desire to go further, a desire to reach that step just past what everyone else was wanting to do.
Do you think it was because he was hated so much that he was like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what I was about to say.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think Zacchaeus made the effort, and effort is recognized. And it's not our effort that saves us.
You don't think the Joker would make that effort?
No.
That's the problem?
Yeah, I think that's where the problem lies. Here's the deal.
But you're just assuming. And what does assuming make us, Chris?
Hey, I get that. You're asking dumb questions. I have to give dumb answers.
It's not a dumb question. It's not a dumb question.
It's one I can't answer, though, right?
Yeah.
If the Joker was seeking like Zacchaeus, here's like
the Joker from Joaquin Phoenix.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Take this for example. If we take what we know about Jesus, if we know that he is always seeking us and seeks to have a relationship with us, then if I am also seeking to reciprocate that I want the same thing too, Jesus is always going to answer and respond.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the reasons why he chose Zacchaeus that day, is because he was actually seeking it. And Jesus is always right there, so he's always going to respond. So the lesson in that is when we seek Jesus, he's going to show up. Yeah. He's going to be there if we're looking for it. So it's, so why not everybody else in the crowd? I don't know. Maybe they weren't seeking. Maybe they're just caught up in the charades of, just because Jesus was popular or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not. Maybe he just focused on that one story, and maybe he reached out to other people too.
But if you look at the Joker and you look at the one with Joaquin Phoenix, have you seen that one? There's a scene where he's in the bus and he's trying to find affection, and he sees this kid, and they're making funny faces at each other, and he's like, oh, I'll do these funny faces, Now, he's very socially awkward. He's a very awkward individual. And then the mother's like, oh, don't look at him. Don't look at him. He's super weird. And he goes, oh. And then he starts laughing because you realize he has a condition when things get awkward, he just laughs.
Oh, I have that condition. I get in trouble all the time for that. I really do. When I'm in trouble.
Give me an example.
If I'm in trouble with my wife or even my dad. One time my dad was yelling at me and I was so nervous and scared about it, I just started laughing and that just made it worse. I don't know, at that time, let's guess 10. But I still do that to this day though.
Really?
Tammy knows that if I start laughing, and Carly kind of does it too, but if you don't know how to respond in that situation or whatever it is, I don't know what causes it, but it's kind of like, I don't know what to do, and so I just start laughing, and then it just makes the problem 10 times worse because you're not wanting to laugh and you're not laughing at the situation, you just can't control it. Yeah. And then I get in more trouble.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know why we're talking about that.
I don't know. I was just you were just sharing your heart, and I was just listening.
I am pouring it out there.
I was listening more about your backstory.
Here's what I believe about the Joker.
All right.
If the Joker, all of it comes down to a matter of the heart. Right.
I wasn't planning on having such an in-depth conversation.
You're the one that keeps bringing the Joker back into it. So I'm going with it.
I'm loving this conversation.
I think if people showed the Joker, if they continually did like Jesus and wanted to care about him, I don't think it would be a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Unless you just caught him on the right day.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be repeatedly over and over again. If Batman or Harley Quinn or whoever, the city folk, are, because I don't know all the stories in Batman.
Yeah.
If they all repeatedly just showed interest in him and cared about him and learned about his story and had empathy, I think over time he probably could change.
Yeah.
If he wanted, it would still be his decision.
Harley Quinn put all.
I think it'd help.
Harley Quinn put all of her identity.
She just went back crazy because of him.
Yeah. Yeah. She put all.
What do you think, Tim?
Instead of God, she didn't put all of her identity in God, but instead she put all of her identity on Joker. And,
and it made her crazy.
Made her crazy.
Well, if we're going to do a deep dive into Batman versus Joker, Batman is only a representation of good in the story of good versus evil.
Yeah.
Batman is not a representation of good as in good versus God.
Yeah.
So he represents an opposite side
Yeah.
of good.
Yeah.
When we put those two together, and if you want to do a deep dive into whether
I don't
Batman
have time for that, but
being good would have affected Joker, no, because good does not overcome evil
yeah.
in the sense that good always wins. It's God always wins.
Yeah.
And we have come to associate the good as God.
Yeah.
Well, in the Christian realm, I think that that's an understandable oversight.
Yeah.
But when you dig into what was going on in the story of the Joker, the story of the Joker is not necessarily good versus evil in Joaquin Phoenix's example. It's the issue of his struggles in mental illness.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, if we wanted to bring Jesus into this, there is an example in the Bible where Jesus was in a position where he was able to cast demon out of a man. And that man, whether people want to say mental illness and demon possession could be correlated or not, that's not the issue at hand. It's the fact that Jesus did what was necessary. And at the end of that story, it says he sat and listened to what Jesus had to say. So to say that good can overcome evil in the fact that being better can overcome being bad versus the power of God, in essence, versus the creation failure, those are two completely separate things.
Yeah. Yeah. So with all that, we kind of got sidetracked. So I'm going to bring it back in, which is the backstory. I mean, Jesus Zacchaeus. Jesus came to Zacchaeus' house, and he wanted to know his backstory. You know, he wanted to know, even though that he knew, he wanted to know that. So with that, there's something about where we live that says a lot about who we are. And so, like with us, like me and you, Chris, you know, we have two completely different, like you lived in Atlanta. We all know that you live in Atlanta. And and I was born in Chicago and all this stuff. But we have two completely separate, you know, lives. You know, Tim, where were you born? You were born in Fort Smith, right?
No, I was actually born in Central Arkansas, but small town in Prattsville.
Prattsville. All right. So, so we all have these different things. And I think it's good for us to know each other's backstory. Like I know about yours, you know, and you know about mine, you know, and we're starting to know Tim's and all that.
It helps you understand people better.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of just thinking about your point of view and your, you know, it all goes back to that where it's, you know, we're not just thinking about ourselves, but we're thinking about their backstory and what they went through and all that stuff.
All right. So let's make this super practical for a junior high, middle school, or whatever you are.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about backstory and all this stuff with the Joker and whatever. How does that relate to what I need to do as a junior high student and how I treat people or whatever?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is inviting Jesus into your story, you know, inviting Jesus into like asking God, hey, you know, like help me share the story, or just talking to him about your story. You know, that's huge. Like, you know, God, I struggled with this.
Do you think Jesus cares about your story?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, think about Jesus, right? A God that was fully man and fully God. He came down, even though that he made humans, he knows the feelings and all that stuff that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
He still brought Jesus down so he could experience those firsthand. Like he wants to know every part and every feeling and every emotion and all that stuff, like all the sadness, all the heartbreak that we experience and all that stuff. So yeah, I do think he cares about our backstory.
I think that's a good point on like the fact that Jesus, a lot of times we think of God or Jesus, whoever, as the big guy in the sky.
Yeah.
And the reality is he gave all that up so he could come experience human life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I know what you've been through. Well, he really does know what you've been through. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. So inviting Jesus into your story. And another one is invite someone we know that we trust to share our story with, and that's a big step. And I think with that, when we tell each other, our stories, first we'll, I guess what am I trying to say is that when you tell someone your story or whatever, that will give them the motivation or them the courage to tell them about their story and where they come from. Mm-hmm. But I say it has to start with talking to Jesus about your story first and all that, and then going into others and saying, hey, this is what God did to me, and this is the stuff that I went through and all that stuff, and that will help. I mean, for me, like, I'm an open book, and with that, I'm able, like, I share every struggle and all that stuff. I used to not be like that, but I've just grown to do that because I've learned through that I've had so many students come up to me and saying, oh, I struggled with that too, and then I'm able to have that one-on-one connection with them and talk to them, and I'm not the only one that can do that. Everyone can do that, Yeah.
A&E was a cable channel.
Yeah.
A&E?
A&E. And their slogan, it is, but their slogan used to be, every life has a story.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think is very important to know, is that we sometimes feel like our story doesn't matter because it's not super exciting. I've never done anything really bad. I've never done anything really good. I'm just average, or I'm normal. Nobody knows me. But every story is important. Every life has a story.
Yeah.
And sometimes we see these people and we just look at them as a number or an identity, but we don't know that there's a story behind each of those. Yeah. And just as you said, sometimes people knowing that we don't express our story so that people will think anything elevated about us other than the fact that it just gives an opening to say, look, my story is this. I'd like to know your story, because knowing who you are, knowing your story, knowing who I am, we have the opportunity to connect, and connection leads to community. Community leads to better understanding in all areas, especially when it comes to knowing that the story that we long to tell and live to tell is that Jesus came and he died for us, and that the life that we live here is only going to last for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But after that, there is something that's even longer, bigger, better, that we want to make sure it is told.
Yeah.
And that, Tim, is why you are here today. Man, wrapping that up and putting a bow on it.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say. Back to last week when we were talking about aliens.
How much time do we have left first?
Are
we about to
do you believe in aliens?
What? I don't know. No.
Okay.
I'm not saying there couldn't be,
but hopefully next week. All right, guys. Thank you for watching the Imperfect Together podcast. Like the subscriptions.
What?
Like it if you like it.
That's two different things.
If we're doing something wrong, if you hated our conversation about the Joker and Batman and all that stuff, please put it in the comments. I would love to argue with you. That's what I got.
Or tell us your favorite superhero.
Or tell me your superhero. Yeah. If it's the Flash, I'm not paying attention to you. All right. See you guys.
Oh goodness. Later.